thinking that I won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying, Adrian, defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, oh,
Dear friends, Operator Starsky here, and this is In Time.
Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and Zandring is actually not with us today, but we do have Brooks. Brooks, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Oh, so, a couple of things we got to get through real quick. First of all, if you told me when this started, the number of times I'd have to give this exact preamble, I wouldn't have believed you. World War III is once again the trending hashtag on Twitter. And yes, I do dead name Twitter so long as Elon Musk dead names his own child. So we're in a situation again where everyone could see a road to how World War III could happen, and we're not as far from that road as any of us would like. Having said that, while all world wars start in situations very similar to the one we're in now, we get into situations like this more often than people are aware of, and we find a way to avoid it. Everybody knows the price, and thus far, nobody has wanted to pay it, and we've been lucky for that. Now, Brooks, being who he is, brought up a question on last night's show, brought up a lot of shit, which brought him back today so that we could expand on it. And honestly, I as happens when we have Brooks on, we have a thumbnail, we have a topic, we're going to be discussing AI, which I'd really like to discuss, but there's so much going on, and Brooks is such a wealth of knowledge that it's very difficult to have him on and not say, let's talk about other things. And
I am blushing. Oh.
I expect the $20 in the mail, bud. But anyways, so we're going to talk about at least some of those things, and we'll see where it goes. I tend to I do think the AI thing is very important for a number of reasons that got mentioned last night. But what's going on in the world today is also extraordinarily important, and it's important that our audience know about it. So, we're going to talk about some things. The first thing is that Brooks, you had asked a question of Commander and I, which is what's really to stop Israel from detonating a nuclear weapon in Iran, and we couldn't come up with anything. Now, I've talked with Kafir. Those of you who are regulars know who he is. He's also on our Discord if you'd like to talk to him yourself. He is in an area that is currently getting hit, and so he's a little stressed, but he took some time for me today, and we chatted. I spoke with him about that scenario and a number of others. He pointed out that Netanyahu obviously would have no compunction about using one. He's currently committing genocide on 2.1 million people. It doesn't, there's obviously, but he pointed out that right now Israel is a pariah state in the world, and other than the U.S., has basically no friends, and they're very aware of this in Israel, and they are not a fan of this. And about the only thing that they could do that could worsen their reputation and make their lives worse is use a nuclear weapon. Netanyahu doesn't have the understanding to know this, but the military does, and the military is a separate entity from the government. And the military can overthrow him. They had been asked to do so. I think it was 4 years ago, when during the million-man riots down in Tehran, and they refused to because they are right-wing. They're supposed to be apolitical, but they're right-wing. So what are you going to do? But they don't want to launch a nuclear weapon in Tehran because they're aware that if you're a single state and you fire a weapon like that, every other country in the world will find a way to take you out. And the reason is there's an understanding that you don't deploy nuclear weapons in this modern age and time because of exactly where it could and will eventually lead to. Yes. So Israel is over. It may be that nobody's going to fire weapons, although he couldn't confirm whether or not, and I mean, he doesn't know if they have ballistic missiles capable of striking within, say, the USSR. So Russia. So it could be that Russia could counter it. Who knows? But he said Netanyahu has no idea about any of this and doesn't care. Netanyahu is trying to stay in power. He is not the grand manipulator everybody thinks he is. It's more like he just takes wherever he is right now and says, on what lily pad do I have to jump to from here to stay in power? Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's when people talk about Netanyahu as being a brilliant political strategist or whatever, it's the same problem that we have when people talk about Putin. And all the people who fight Putin are just like, hey, stop that. Stop saying he's a mastermind. Even if you say he's an evil mastermind or he always figures out and he's the best, like, you're building up a reputation of something that simply doesn't exist. He's a mid-level bureaucrat, just like Bibi, by the way, who found their way into a spot and is holding on to it by building the rest of the PR around it. And the enemies who don't understand it, they, go into it. He's a psychopath, builds into it just as much as anything else. But if you say, yeah, actually, he's a fail son who barely could do anything outside of these things, and all he can do is the most awful thing to maintain power, because he can't actually be a state. Like I think that's a better thing to say, personally. But I appreciate that. Look, I say this from a position of an American, and we've watched a lot of nuclear threats back and forth. We've seen how people react to North Korea threatening it, China threatening it. Like nuke threats have been a thing, and you're older than I am. This is for old people. This is boring. Like nuke threats is boring, but there's a flavor to it that sits here because, to me, there's only one country that, let's say it happened. Any other country, this happens, I'm with you. Every other country is like, I'm going to take that out. But with Trump in the White House at this point in time, and with the way that our country, my country, is handling it, as well as a handful of others, that anyone who would respond against Israel would then be escalating to bring in the U.S. And that would be that's the thing I don't think anyone wants to do. And that's the part that I worry about.
I agree. That's the part I worry about too. And Kafir and I had mentioned that, and he said, even if it takes them 20 or 30 years to do it in a way that, and China thinks along those lines. I mean, China thinks about
that I will agree with. And this is where I would even say the saddest thing for me, and I think I said this a bit ago, is this path we're already down, is that as far as Israel's concerned, as the solely Jewish state, the ethno-state that is centered, placed in the position it is, with the land it has and the political connections, it's over. We don't know it yet because it hasn't ended yet, but that's the reality. And for me, as someone who just doesn't want people to die, my worry for everyone involved is that the worse that Israel does in the region, the worse the blowback will be when they get in the position of not being able to defend themselves. And a lot of it, I don't believe civilians are like culpable in a way that some people talk about. There will be a lot of dead children and families and awful shit in that. And that's the thing that I think people don't understand, is the outcome of this already is that Israel's over. It's just a question of whether it's next year, 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, but there's no sustaining the current system.
Well, and so one of Kafir's points, insofar as will Israel deploy a nuclear weapon, he thinks there's at least a 33% chance that Benjamin Netanyahu will order it. He thinks there is a near 0% chance the military will follow the order. And the reason is because, while Bibi does not understand any of what you just said, as you and I both know, the military does. And he said the military is aware that China, somebody will wipe them out for detonating a nuclear weapon in Tehran. And the military are loyalists to the concept of the state of Israel and their duty to protect it.
Honest to God, all we can do is pray that that's true. Yeah. Because the U.S. has deployed military on its soil, and we were able to do that because they got rid of the inspector generals inside of the Pentagon that used to stop such things and stop Trump the first time. So when you start removing those things and you're doing things that all ostensibly should not be happening by any stretch because the military is no longer in the same position they were, we are beyond that. Israel's beyond that too. Again, this is why I'm in the place that I'm in. I'm praying alongside him, and I'm really hoping that he's right, but I have a lot of nervousness.
I have nervousness too, and because
it's in the best interest of Israel as a state right now.
It's in the best short-term interest, yeah, and Netanyahu, all Netanyahu cares about is short-term interests. So
that's all states care about.
That's not necessarily all the military cares about, especially when they're divided from. I mean, the military in Israel is obligated to overthrow the government if they think it's become a dictatorship, which it obviously has, and they're refusing to. So but they are still set up differently in Israel, and how much of that is intact is a good question. Kafir, who left the IDF, I think 2 or 3 years ago, my hope is that he has still has a strong understanding of how the military leadership is thinking, and to his view, they're aware of what the long-term consequences would be and would not pull the trigger. it wouldn't be
one of the things that they've got, and this is the worst part of where we're at, and this is true in the United States. The thing that is saving us is the bureaucracy, because bureaucracy has latency and doesn't change quickly with elections. And the latency of that, the bureaucratic IDF that is thinking long term, because they've been there for 40 years, they're not concerned about elections in the same way. Like, that's really going to be our only hope, is bureaucracy, and I hate that. It's fucking crazy.
It is. Well, it was like when I was watching the Tucker Carlson, and I still recommend to everybody, I think it is worth to everybody. I don't know what you think. I rarely recommend videos. I rarely recommend watching them fully through. I recommend watching the Tucker Carlson interview with Ted Cruz fully through, because I think that's the only way to get the full idea of what exactly happened there. And it was an assassination on live television, pre-planned. He knew all of Cruz's voting record. He knew he had pre-canned answers for and he just destroyed him. Now, these are two MAGA guys. Why do you think they were going after each other like that? It was clearly to send a message. What was the message, and to who?
So for me, it was Tucker and the New Right, because again, we know Tucker and Bannon are aligned on this, and these people are kind of the soothsayers for Trump, especially now that Elon Musk is out and apparently Trump's not answering his phone or returning his calls.
I know
the people who are influencing the New Right, the Stephen Millers, for example, and the people who do make up, I would say, the brunt of Trump's ideological, political sort of system in his group that are talking to him. The new versus the old. This is again, when we talk about Ted Cruz, it's weird to come at him as the old, because I remember when he was the weird new upstart, but he was part of the Tea Party, Sarah Palin bullshit movement that was astroturfed and all lies, but he represented the new Republican Party, and the full cuckolding of him and all of his people is necessary for the New Right to fully take the Republican Party. I believe that's what this was. I mean, I think that's what they were going. If you come at the king, you best not miss. They didn't miss, basically. And I think it's going to do a lot of damage to the traditional neocon Republican infrastructure that Ted Cruz absolutely represents.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no way. I mean, his reputation, the video is just, I mean, I used to do debates.
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it was also, I've always known that, Carlson is smarter than he makes himself out to be, quite deliberately. And I learned that especially when they released the internal emails from Fox News, and he was the only one saying Trump can sink Fox News. Trump could end us. It was like, we got to have him on more. Have him on more. He goes, no, he's fucking nuts. I was just like, oh, here he is with his nose most up Trump's ass more than anybody, and he knows exactly who and what Trump is. I was like, Carlson is not fucking dumb.
No, he's just cynical and kind of evil and wealthy.
Yeah, and a real piece of shit. And it's amazing how many of those there are around right now. It's really hard to fathom, between talking about Putin, Netanyahu, and everybody around. It's just amazing how many there are like that. Jesus. So, and then that leaves us with sort of the last concern. Well, aside from the fact that Tulsi Gabbard has come out and basically said that her testimony before Congress in February was perjured, and that Iran is about to have a nuclear weapon. That's not really what she said. What she said was they misunderstood it when she said Iran had no nuclear weapons program, had dismantled it in 2003, and had kept up really even with so she basically came out and said, what the part that they didn't glean from that is that they could restart it and have a nuclear weapon in just a couple of weeks.
Which is insane. Yeah.
And wasn't what she was trying to say, clearly, if you read the testimony, but sorry, I cut you off.
No, I hate these people.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard is one of the worst. She's one of the worst. She is pure grift. She's pure grift. Again, she's a Modi supporter. So she's a Hindu nationalist supporter. Who gives a shit? Screw her.
Well, and she was
rogue ass hair from X-Men, dumb bitch. I fucking hate. She's awful.
And The other thing, by the way, for those of you who are new to Brooks, sometimes you have to read the lines between the lines because he can be very subtle with his opinions when it comes to people. So
I'm very held back.
Yeah, he's quite a reserved cat there. So, and I'm not actually trying to segue into the actual topic, but just as it ends up segueing into it anyway. But what Tulsi Gabbard testified before Congress, that before releasing the JFK files, she fed them all into an AI and asked, is there any of this that should not be declassified? I was just like, oh my God.
No one followed up, by the way, no one followed up with the question I'm curious about. What AI? Because if it was Claude, ChatGPT, a handful of other, Google, everything submitted gets ingested.
Yeah. Ooh. Whoa.
No one asked that, and I still don't understand how no one asked that. Like,
because
like
nobody
if it's my
understands
home
that.
machine,
Yeah.
like I have an AI running in my garage. It's fine. I do things, and it doesn't ingest things. Like that's not how it has to work. But all of these systems do work that way. Fucking crazy.
I suspect it was ChatGPT. That appears to be the AI that they use. Plan. Yeah, I'm assuming as well. I agree. I assume, you know, it's the U.S. government, and they're just like, no, we're not going to pay for, you know, $30 for or whatever it is for the Oh, for fuck's sake! So that leaves one remaining question before we get to the real get back to AI, which is. So the other thing is, of course, that we're following, aside from Tulsi Gabbard now saying that essentially she's saying that she perjured herself. I mean, that's in not so many words, but okay, fine.
Did the same thing. He opened himself to perjury completely as well the other day. That was like, it's like, because no one cares. No one's going to do anything. Like we know laws are broken now. We're done.
Yeah, the law doesn't really have any meaning. Israel wants more than anything to destroy the facility at, I think it's pronounced Fordow. Fordow is ostensibly a uranium enrichment facility that is 300 feet underground. Even the U.S. bunker buster cannot penetrate that far down. Israel had several plans to destroy it. The one that seemed to have the most likelihood of success was actually send in commandos, break in, just blow through door by door by door, go all the way into the facility. It'd kill everyone in there, blow it up, and then get out. Apparently this was presented to Trump. He said no. The alternative is, in fact, a tactical nuclear weapon. Even that wouldn't work right at the surface level. You'd have to soften it with regular bombs, then maybe drop a bunker buster or two to continue to soften it, and the facility would feel the attacks. A tunnel or two might collapse, but you still wouldn't penetrate or destroy the facility. Then deploy a tactical nuke on top of that, and the facility would be gone. Presumably,
maybe.
Thank you.
Maybe like that's like
it's so far. Nobody's ever tried this before. Nobody's sure how to hit a facility that far down. So this is what the U.S. is now considering. It looks like there is a fracture. And you and I said this last night, which was that Trump actually is not pro-war, which is a little bizarre to me. It's very weird to find a characteristic of Trump that I actually find either honorable or like. And I certainly don't know why he's got it. It's not in with any of his other characteristics, but he seems to truly be against war, and he's not, pro. It's just weird. And it doesn't mean he won't do it. But it's the only redeeming quality I have yet to find.
He's not really anti-war. Like this is where it's again, he doesn't really have principles. So ascribing it in a way where it's like, oh, he's anti-war. It's like he's because he killed, like he's for killing Soleimani. He's for doing all of these horrifying things that absolutely instigate war. He's sending people in and doing awful shit when it comes to Yemen. Like he does evil shit. But what he doesn't want is specifically the things he was able to attack before. Tucker Carlson talks about the time, the moment that he realized that Iraq was a mistake was, and he talks about this a few times, but he said it was because he was watching the Greenville debate in 2016, Trump, where Trump said that Iraq was a waste because we didn't get anything out of it. And that's the thing that got to Tucker that made him change his mind. If you don't remember, Tucker, so when you put it in that, what's happening is, if you go back and you rewatch and you kind of go through Trump's thing, he is sort of just taking the contrarian position that puts him in a cool intellectual spot without the intellectual backup for it. And so his thing has always been, I don't give a shit what is going to make me seem like I'm clever always. And he's very open and talking about how he doesn't really have opinions on these things. So there's no principle that's anti-war. He's very open for war. The problem is that he has basically built his career now on being anti-war. He's built a huge user base of fans and people giving him money that are absolutely in that direction. And Bannon, I actually believe, is anti-war in an isolationist sense, which is a different kind of beast. And so when you have isolationist anti-war people, which is not the same as people who are anti-war, but it's, you collide in a few different places, you actually have to keep your base happy. And if they turn, they'll turn overall, because the Republican right-wing fascist assholes have no problem with like just overall switching, because again, these are people who tell stories about how people were mean to them online, so that way they don't believe anymore in welfare. Like, they're assholes. So they're ready to switch on anything if people just upset them just a little bit. So it's a real big problem for Trump. Huge problem.
They have no problems with war in the United States carried out by, quote, patriots, which would be them against somebody who is acting in contrary to the interests of the United States. That's the far right. So the people that he's talking about pissing off, and this is the distinction between isolationist pro-war and regular pro-war, which is the isolationist pro-war will go to war against you, even if you're the president of the United States, if you act how they believe is contrary to the isolationist view and interests of the U.S.
And there's no way that he is not affected by people in what he presumed was his base or his biggest boosters now saying that he is a traitor, that he should be impeached for even considering it. X as a whole is Nazi land, and they are supportive of Israel to a point, and that point has been crossed. And as soon as that happens, you start seeing what we're seeing, which is the right wing turning against Israel, which means turning against Trump. And there's no way he's not swayed in some capacity, because he's not like Biden. Everyone in the Democratic Party was like, dude, Biden, you got to do a thing. He was like, no, I'm a Zionist, eat shit. That, like, he doesn't give a fuck. He's an awful person in a lot of ways, but he's not swayed by political pressures the same way that Trump is. Absolutely. And that part, I think, is, again, terrifying.
So, any final thoughts on Trump? Who I had Trump. God damn it! It's sort of like when I first started watching 24, which, again, dating myself, but you watch 24, and it was one of the first shows that I saw that really defied expectations. They killed off characters you said they would never kill off.
24 was awesome.
And as soon as you started to get the formula for 24, and you said, "Oh, this is how they build up a character for killing off," and then there's like
you know that they were dying, how they introduced them.
And then they end up flipping it somehow, where there would be a casual character. You're like, oh, they're not going to kill off the casual. The casual character dies. You're like, I didn't see it because that's so trite and so formulaic. And 24 is not formulaic, that I didn't expect them for one episode to go formulaic. And now you're like, now you just fucked
like
with
Law and Order. You know who the criminal is? The actor you recognize. Who's the rapist? I don't know, but Kevin Bacon is guest starring.
Oh shit! So when Trump says 2 weeks, universally, that is the blow off. And we did that intro piece last time, and it shows him doing 2 weeks, and him admitting that when he wants to blow off heads of state, he says, let's talk in 2 weeks. And you know what that is the baby, I'll respect you in the morning. That's what that is. And he admits it. And then he even said at the end of that clip, he's just like, hey guys, this even works on us. He goes, this is human beings. We only listen for about 2 weeks. That's it. And then we forget. Yeah. So I took it as dropping any kind of nuclear weapon, or even getting engaged in a conventional sense, any kind of kinetic sense in Iran, was off the table. That's what 2 weeks is code for with him. And yet, The Guardian is reporting that it really is still on the table, and that there's internal fighting over whether or not he's going to do this. He appears to be at odds. 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴 Gabbard has thrown herself under the bus to permit him to continue, which means somebody has to be thinking that this might still go forward, because what 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴 Gabbard did is reasonable. I mean, she threw herself on her sword to a non-trivial degree, and she didn't have to do that unless he's still considering it. And we know he loves Bibi. So,
do we?
Well, when I say loves, I mean he looks at Bibi.
Bibi is not his daughter's vagina, so I'm not sure that's the case.
Okay, fair. This is why I like having you on, is you keep me honest about the language that I use and how
what he loves. We know what he loves.
Yes, we do. We've seen the pictures. Children. Yeah, we've seen the pictures.
Also, he's on Epstein's flight list very many times, and Elon Musk specifically said the reason that this stuff hasn't come out is because of Trump being in there so often. So.
And that has been dismissed by a lot of people, and that was dismissed by not Stephen Colbert, John, what's his name? He's on HBO. John Oliver, who dismissed it. He's like, look, everybody's in there somewhere, and it doesn't mean anything. I was like, there is a little truth to that, because Epstein was so tied. Well, Epstein was tied to so many people. You could see names in there that didn't mean anything. But A, to see him defending that on Trump was odd. And B, we know he was buddy with Trump because we have the footage of him literally whispering in Epstein's ear about the young ladies and saying, I like them young. How do you get them younger than this? That's on tape. He said it. And we know he's in there multiple times. We know a lot of money exchanged hands. So you can't throw that defense. I could buy that defense with a waiter on a plane at one point for one of these people who was hired by a third-party service company that had no idea. But
Alan Dershowitz, still, by the way, because I have to bring it up every time. Alan Dershowitz, the Dersh, he's on the flight logs and everything. Do you remember how he defended himself?
No.
Because he said he got a massage, but he never took his underwear off. And I love that that's his defense. That's how he defended himself against getting an underage girl's massage. You never,
oh, Jesus.
I love good self-reports. Like, what's his name? Who I liked is an economics guy, Peter. God damn it! The other day,
is it Peter Schiff or Peter?
Yes, Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff on Twitter. On Twitter, he goes, "It's not a big deal like younger girls. When I was in college, I used to go out with under 18-year-old girls all the time." And I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? It's one of the best, like, unhinged nightmare moments where, like, you know, in his head, he's like, "I got you." Didn't everyone after college date high school girls? It's like, dude,
we've all gotten drunk one night and killed someone and buried them in the back. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of.
Who hasn't flown on a plane to a Bahamian island where it's filled with little girls and everything? I mean, shit.
Oh my God!
Well, race riot once in a while.
And because the news hasn't reported this, or I don't know where to go, I don't know. But I was not aware until recently of how big an issue this is with MAGA. Where MAGA, he promised to release the Epstein file. And that, it's funny because so many people on the left have dismissed Elon Musk calling out the Epstein files. And I'm sitting there going, no, he knew exactly what he was doing because the right cares. The right cares. That was a huge blow. And I haven't actually heard about it. So I'm like, either I'm missing something or I'm not seeing enough of the correct right-wing sources because...
Oh, no. You only see the mainstream ones that we talk about because you have to remember there was video taken by... again, there's a bunch of these right-wing shitheads who I don't want to really give credit to, but they have Pam Bondi on like video surreptitiously talking about how she has all of the Epstein files, her words, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, if this is... I hate telling the story because there's a good chance she's lying, but if she's lying, it's worse. But maybe it's not. It's on my desk. The reason it's taking so long is because there's all the video footage we haven't told people about. And I was like, what? 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 That's a real thing she said on, it might be like, it's a moment. It happened. She said this and she didn't like say that this isn't true. Like,
oh, she didn't walk it back.
And I'm just like, what? There's video, apparently a lot of tapes that a lot of people have to watch. One sec, I'll send you the link. You can.
Oh, God.
I didn't know there were videotapes. That was the part that I went, oh, that makes sense though.
It does make sense though. What I've always found interesting, and I've had this conversation because people are sitting there going, is it just me, or do people who do heinous things really like recording them? And I was like, no, it's not just you. And I remember in social studies, like in 12th grade or something, we were talking about why did Adolf Hitler record so many things that he did? It's like, first of all, if you do heinous things, you don't think they're heinous, so you don't think there's anything wrong with recording them. Second of all, you tend to have an ego, and you think everybody's interested in everything you do, and everything you do is changing the world for the better, and so you record everything. Or you're attending orgies with minors, and you're sitting there going like, I want to remember this, so let's record it, or whatever the hell the thing is. So it ends up being that people who have a tendency to do really heinous things tend to keep a lot of evidence around for it, which is
So what happened? She got caught on this tape, and then another congressman made a comment, and she held a press conference. I'm just going to quote her. There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims. Bondi told reporters at the White House on Wednesday. It's from the Miami Herald. No one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through all of that.
Well, with this administration, the FBI and diligent doesn't. That's a non sequitur.
Right, but to say that there are videos.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like, yeah, I am glad that the article, and a lot of articles are saying Epstein reportedly took his own life. I'm glad they're starting to add that.
Yeah, that is a it's like when what was the other one that was an absolute lie, and it took him a while for it was one of the Trump things, but it took a while before even the left-wing media had enough balls to just sit there and say, well, but I can't remember. I do believe absolutely that Russia has compromat of some kind on Trump. He was alone in a hotel. He's in Russia. They will give him anything he wants, and he's too stupid to realize that it's bugged. That's just the way Trump is. Nobody can outsmart Trump and bug the hotel room. He did something that he shouldn't have done, and they've got it. I have zero doubt in my mind. And not because they thought he was going to be president of the United States, but because he was a businessman coming into Russia, and they did that to everybody who comes into Russia. That's just, I mean, it's 1984. It's what they do. It's, George Orwell was trying to make a fucking point. And I don't. So we'll get something on. Is it going to mean anything in this world? It's like, I have no idea anymore. I have no fucking idea anymore.
There will be no justice for the victims. There will be no justice for any of it. It will probably never come out. Certainly not during this presidency, but maybe not during any consecutive one. And, we'll see what happens.
So, what is, if you had to guess, and that's all we can do at this point, if you had to guess, and it actually looks like there's this weird part of me that is just sort of like, haha, motherfucker, you're going to have gray hair by the time you're out of this. And I think it's just because I did work on the Obama campaign. And Obama's hair turned from this dark black hair to this, as happens to basically every president. It happens. Yeah. But you age faster when you're president of the United States. And Trump is like, oh, no, it's a myth. It's a joke. And now Trump's got several very serious fucking problems on his hand. And it's the first time.
Catheter, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I heard about that. It's the first time I've ever seen Trump genuinely in a bind, where he's got a problem that there is no obvious way to snake his way out of, and whatever he does, it's just going to add to his problems. It's the first time I've really seen him in that position. So what's going through his head, do you think? This is the guess.
His
what's
head?
Yeah, nothing.
I don't think there's nothing there. He is no.
So is it going to be literally a coin flip as to whether or not we go in?
I don't even know if it's that.
Somebody else is going to make the decision?
I have no idea. Like it's
Okay.
it's not even the. I would love to be able to say, hey, here's this. It could be this. It's these things, but we're in a position for the first time in my entire life where things that might result in nukes going off are actually possibly falling, and everything is also the least likely thing. We go back 2 months. Go back 3 years, right before October, before October 7th, right? And if I had said, hey, a bunch of Hamas guys are going to bust through that fucking wall and they're going to kill a bunch of IDF guys and the IDF's going to kill a bunch of civilians and then and they're not going to be able to do anything about it and then they're going to invade Gaza, you'd be like, look, the wall's pretty secure. That's what everyone thought. And the IDF would know. They're the best intelligence service on the world. Mossad will get their shit together. Like, we learned all of that's false. It's the same thing that, oh God, if Russia invades, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, they've got a bunch of garbage, and it's like guys with drones are doing a very effective job at pushing them back, and there's a lot of lives lost. But like the way that we understood the world or have been taught it in the last 5 to 6 years, I think we fully understood that all of it was effectively facade. And at this point, we are so far off of any rationalist, politicking, ethical view of how people act or how things act that I actually don't have the slightest fucking clue how to even quantify how things are going to
go. I will say this, and we try to be as optimistic as possible on this show as we look at the data. You're a guest. I'm talking about like all of us who run on the production level, but. And I've said earlier, we've been in dangerous situations many times, many more times than people think. And I was just looking up before this, the number of times that somebody has ordered a strike, usually by Russia, into the United States, a nuclear strike, and a general commander, or some guy just refused it, and stopped World War III from happening by refusing. So we've been
close to the brink many times. Bay of Pigs is a great example as well.
Yep. So, in Bay of Pigs, what a lot of people don't know is that, the submarine, I forget the name of the guy in the submarine, but he was ordered to fire a nuclear weapon at a U.S. aircraft carrier, and he said no.
We exist because of, 2 different people.
Yeah, exactly. It was just that one guy, and he was honored for basically saving the human race by not following the order. Which is terrifying that we can get that close. It's nice to know that there's humanity in some people, and at least some people understand the gravity of this situation. But you just reminded me of, and I'm going to quote the movie, which was just a movie, but he made a very good point, which was, it was 13 Days. And which would have been a better movie if they didn't try to make it a vehicle for Kevin Costner. I have no idea why they just, let's make it a vehicle.
Kevin Costner is the driver. I think he was executive producer on that.
Oh well, that would do it. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought gave some significant insight into how and why things happened the way it did, and it did not paint U.S. as winning. It painted the U.S. as what we lost the Bay of Pigs invasion. We just looked like we won, which is what we needed. We needed the appearance of winning, and Khrushchev needed an actual victory. The appearance didn't matter because he controlled the media. But all that notwithstanding, at one point, John F. Kennedy is talking about how World War I started. And he said it started because everybody assumed they understood everybody else. And everybody assumed that the rules were the same as they had been 50 years ago. And the rules had changed and nobody noticed. And by the time people started to notice, and by the time said, wait a minute, we don't actually understand what's going on. We thought we did, but we don't. It was too late. The orders had already gone out. Now, things like that don't happen now as much because orders are instantaneous and yada, yada, yada. But at any rate, I think this very similar for World War II, especially our understanding of a lot of things, Germany not least among them. So when you say you don't understand and we don't understand, and it's like all the rules for how society functions seems to have changed. Half of me is like, well, doesn't every old timer say that? Like my dad is just like, well, back in my day, we wouldn't. But on the flip side, it's sort of like, yeah, but in the last 200 years, we always had laws. I mean, at least that's what I've read. Maybe the books I've read are lying to me, but. So, anyways, that's just when you said that. I remembered when he said, everybody thought they could read the other side, but they couldn't anymore. All the rules had changed, and so that just resonated with me, and I felt like, hey, everyone's already freaking out anyway, so why don't I bring that up?
Fair enough. All
right. So, what I think we'll do is, unless there are any other burning questions about that particular topic, which we are going to discuss more, and I'm probably we've not had Brooks on enough anyway. So, and by the way, Brooks, now, could you tell us a little something about the Quarantine Collective before we go on?
Yeah, so founded about 5.5 years ago, came out of the first week of the quarantine, the desire to get together and read a very, very complicated philosophical work called Anti-Oedipus from 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐿 and Félix Guattari. And I put together this reading group, had a few people to get together. It's ended up spawning a bunch of podcasts, some great people. And our focus is basically trying to find a way to be a middle ground between the hyper-academic, which tends to be very difficult to penetrate and also aloof, but at the same time not do the popular shit like Philosophy Tube or Philosophy Garbage, where people do pop culture takes and have a complete misunderstanding fundamentally of major complex philosophy works. So that's what we do with the QC, and so I've been doing that for 5.5 years. We have readings multiple times a week. You're welcome to join. We stream some of them. Most of them end up on our YouTube. And on top of that, I try to create video and content that sort of helps explain how philosophy conceptually works and functionally works. My personal background is in development of all sorts, creative, franchise, code, and web, with a technology sort of burn. I can go through my resume, but I've had a very unique career that's enabled me to do a lot of different things. So I've been moving into, for the last, 4 or 5 years, 6 or 7, actually, I've been touching into LLMs and how they function. And, my frustration stems out of the combination of these two, because with the QC, we've spent a lot of time with extremely complex philosophical issues like sentience, subjectivity, the nature of choice, free will. All of these things are not garbage in and of themselves. They're concepts that are worth dealing with, tearing with, and working with. On the other side, AI, because I've been playing in tech for most of my life, I've actually built from scratch. I've gone early on in 2015, 2016, 2017. There was actually a lot of ways, if you knew Python, you could build some really shitty versions of AI, which I did. And you can find a way to sort of make these things work. And then as the tech got more interesting, things sort of layer on top of that. And so now we're at this really interesting confluence points where people who have no understanding of the philosophical concept or the technological concept are leading the world in how this technology operates, and either being hilarious doomsayers or overly optimistic because they fundamentally don't understand anything about the technology. which tends to spawn me being really passionate and a little bit fucking angry. More than slightly angry, quite often, actually, because we're talking about, and I'm not overstating it, we're talking about a piece of software that, because we're doing laissez-faire mentality with its regulation, is actively getting people to die and ruining lives. Killing people and ruining lives actively.
And I would like to very much discuss that, and also discuss, for me, as you know, I have a BA in philosophy, so that's where you and I have this overlap. So we have a link to the QC. You can find Brooks there. For those of you who have been on In Time many times before and seen us over the couple of years, you've seen Brooks all the time. He does a lot of political commentary. He also does the philosophy, so we bring him on for that. He clearly knows what he's talking about, and it's always a delight. So please do go check out his channel. And you're going to be going live right after this show. I think we're going to be sending everyone down there at some point after the show.
There's a Adam Ragusa did a video on immigration and the nature of it, and then there's a couple channels that put out videos that I really, really have to shit on, which is super fun. Most of my content is explaining why people who do terrible videos I shit on them. It's fun. Some I'm very nice to, but not a lot. There's not a lot of very good content on YouTube, sadly.
So we will be directing everybody there after the show. I hope you will stay and watch. As you can tell, Brooks is very intelligent and a lot of fun to hang with. So,
it's not
you'll enjoy
accurate, but it's I just have time, which is weird because I'm a parent. But I have time, and I read too much, and I've been fortunate to have the career I've had. It's afforded me abilities to do things.
Well, we'll add, I mean, what you said yesterday, I think, was very accurate, which is, we always enjoy having you, but everybody always leaves depressed.
I'm not going to make anyone's day better. If you're looking for a picnic weekend, this is not the stream. Genuinely, coming out of the stream, it's going to leave you with a pit in your stomach, and I'm not joking. I have outlined kind of what I want to talk about, and a big thing I'm going to be asking Nick specifically, because again, you're also quite intelligent. You tend to know what you're talking about, and I know you don't know things about this, but it's not that you don't have the ability to grasp it. It's just there's so much fucking shit out there. You know stuff I don't know. It's the way it works.
Yep.
So as I go, my goal is to make sure I'm speaking to a point that you're able to grasp it. Not people who are really dumb. I don't give a shit about them. They're fucked. They're Republicans. Nothing we can do for them. But the ability for us to go, hey, I don't understand what you mean here, and push back. Please do throughout. If chat's having issues, don't hesitate. I genuinely want to see if we can find a way to really cross that Rubicon of the insane complexity of something to fight the thing that everyone thinks it already is. And probably the best way to describe it is if I were to say, and everyone believes that Everest is the tallest mountain. That question, what does that mean? Because the answer is no. Actually, there is no meaningful way that it's the tallest mountain in any way that we would really do it, except specifically above sea level, distance from sea level to peak. But even then, that's not also true because of other things about the shape of the earth, the nature of how we measure things, the base of the mountain. Mauna Kea is an island that is actually the largest mountain in the world, but it's below sea level, so that's stupid. Why? Like, all of these things end up pushing back against what is a dogmatic image that has been put in people's heads of Everest being the tallest. The challenge we have, and I think we're going to start with, I just got a subscriber. Thank you very much. On my side, I had that turned on.
Before we continue, just FYI too, we've also got the stochastic parrot, because he's going to reference that. We've got a link to that in the description. We've got a link to Apple, the limits of AI, in the description for the show. And he sent me some PDFs, which I have not yet put onto our resources section, but we'll get that done.
The other PDFs are not as fun to read. Those two are the ones that are, if you really want to get into it, those are the fun ones. If you have a background in, I don't know, mathematics and computer programming and like pre-calc, you might be able to do the rest. So, but I wouldn't necessarily say to do it. That's fundamental problem. Here's the fundamental thing we start with, because just like Everest, and it's the thing that is, I think, the poison pill that started us down this road, is the Turing test. And a lot of people, when they talk about the Turing test, don't understand exactly its place in all of this. But at a base level, the Turing test is the idea that when we get to a sufficiently intelligent machine, it'll be able to fool people into saying that it's a computer. It's
Like human.
That it's a human, that it's not a computer. Fundamentally, the test is about lying and tricking people. That's literally the fundamental part of the test. And we start there. And when you go to something like 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐬, which is the famous guy basically made a scripted, shitty version of an AI that just, oh, really? What do you think about X? And it would just kind of scriptedly respond. And it tricked most people. It passed the Turing test. That's a lie. It's just not, look, it's not true intelligence because it's tricking people. The test is about tricking people. And since then, basically that has been, the Turing test has been the push, the drive, the thing. Will people be convinced? When you're building for that solution, fundamentally, that parlor trick being solved, what you end up building is a machine that can do that trick. Not that does intelligence, as our world has changed what it means for intelligence to exist, where we now understand that forests can think, which is fucking weird. What does intelligence even mean? We don't adjust the Turing test, because the Turing test isn't about mimicking intelligence. It's about, hey, are stupid people able to think that you're a fucking human? That's it. That deception at the baseline is kind of the big deal underneath all of this. Because when we start getting to modern LLMs, ChatGPT 4, for example, it passed the Turing test 54% of the time. It's not actually a great number. If it's actually 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬's a good number. The way that it's actually started to teach us, and there's a lot of work done. I have everything I'm talking about here is going to be generally sourced. I'll let you know if it's my direct opinion, but the way that psychology has taken LLMs in the last couple of years has actually been to realize, well, actually, we're stupider than we think. And it's been actually used the opposite direction to understand that actually the Turing test is not a test of the machine. It's a test on humans. It's actually a test of us, because the ability for an AI to fake it is actually about tricking people. It's about understanding that thing and how it tends to work. And the reason that people choose that when they go into studies, Popular Mechanics did a big one about how the AI fooled humans and passed the Turing test. It was on GPT 4.5. But when they asked people, why did you choose it? Just felt something, felt like it. So there's no quantifiable thing here. It's about being fooled, and the people are saying, yeah, it fooled me. Maybe, I'm not sure. All of this is, again, stemming from this one thread. What's the goal of AI? It's to fool people into thinking it's a person. So let's work backwards from there and talk about what LLMs are. Now that we know this test, okay? Now that we know this test is the goal, the thing that engineers are building towards, the thing that these companies are screaming about passing, the thing of excitement, people are being tricked. This is fundamental, that people are being tricked. Well, how do we get there? Well, when I talk today, and we talk about AIs, and I'm going to be using the term AI or LLM fairly interchangeably, I am talking about what is used by the average person or average business or average company globally. There's a lot of different types of machine learning AIs. I'm talking about ChatGPT. I'm going to be talking about stable diffusion or image generation or video generation models, which all use generally the same tech as all of this. I'm not going to be talking about a couple unique versions of LLMs, sort of semi-LLMs. There's a couple of really interesting types of neural networks that use delayed sort of stratification, RNN. They're RNNs and CNNs, not the news organization, but like these, there's a couple other types of tech. We're setting those aside. They're also not intelligence. We don't see them as intelligent. No one sees this. We're talking about specifically consumer-facing AI here. Okay.
Yep.
So just, I want to be very upfront. Large language models as we know it, up until 2017, were really terrible because what they did is they were built on a sort of semi-simulated attempt at making a digital version of a neuron. This is a very long history. I'm not going to go into the entire thing, but this virtual neural network of, you can say, of computers and CPUs and how things can work together. There's a lot of different directions, but they're shitty. They don't work very well. They work very slow, and they don't kind of do the thing we want. And this challenge was putting people in the world of AI in a really bad place, because as computers get faster, it wasn't seeing a lot more over to sort of the, how to put it, couldn't make money off this shit because it sucked and it was slow, and it had some really interesting uses in like the scientific community or study community, but it didn't do things beyond that. So Google's engineers put out this paper, and this is the moment, like if there is a watershed moment in what we would call modern AI, they invented this thing or came up with this thing called transformers. Traditionally, when you'd have these neural networks going, is they would be passing the information through all of these simulated neural networks. And that is incredibly processor CPU intensive. They had to have special processors and everything. Transformers, though, instead of having the neural network do all the work, transformers are literally just comparative matrices. What this means is you basically have a matrix of all of this information, just stable, steady. A matrix is just a big table of numbers. I'm oversimplifying, but just go with that. And then you have another one. And transformers basically look at the two, and it computes difference across all of it, sort of as a thing. There's a paper, it's called All You Need Is Attention, which is the paper that sort of founded transformers as we know it today. The transformers give a universal approach to processing data from every modality. Because if you take images, it takes images, turns them into pure data that can be put in a very specific way in this matrix and compared. Words can be converted into data, not data in the sense of the picture becomes data, but in the sense of it becomes tokens that become binaries. Mathematics, it reduces everything to numbers. Music, for example, temperature, any measurement at all can be turned into these things. This universal approach to data, rather than like RNNs actually like process the image of an image for an image, which is fucking weird to talk about. This is not what happens. Anything you see that Google reads or ChatGPT reads or images generated by this, they don't even look at the image. There's no looking at an image. There's nothing to look at. It doesn't process that way. It is purely a comparative matrix of numbers. That's it. That's it. All of these, everything you're talking about here, everything AI does, there's no reasoning steps. There's no setup. There's no thing that puts a person in a position of going, oh, actually, there's someone there who's thinking, oh, this is that. When you ask ChatGPT a question, it says reasoning. Claude does this too. They do this a lot. I'm reasoning. It's not. It's not. Reasoning is the process of comparative thought or secondary things in time. Matrices in transformers just compare and then spit out an output. That's it. One of the papers has a phenomenal quote that basically gets at the heart of this and why this is important. The human brain, we know, absolutely does not work like this. If I were to say, hey, Nick, you just have a bunch of mathematical numbers that are being compared in real time. You'd go, what the fuck are you talking about, Brooks? Like, that's not at all. But we've worked ourselves into this position because we started down the road with the Turing test and then these neural networks that we made more efficient, that we developed into other things that are analog to the real neurons, but they're kind of not. And we keep stepping away from it until the point where we just have flat transformers that have absolutely no activity in them except the comparative element. This means that basically at this point, not only are these things not even slightly operating like the brain, but they're unrelated wholly. The brain itself is trained with a recurrent architecture on a relatively small amount of grounded sentences. A child works like this. Transformers are trained with massive feed-forward architectures and huge text databases. They're not the same. They don't work the same. They don't function the same. They don't learn the same. There is no similarity between how AI functions, LLMs function, and the human mind function in any capacity that works at any level, not as an analog. The only way it works is if you go, oh, we think the human brain kind of works like a computer. No, it doesn't. The human brain doesn't work like a computer. It never has. It processes things. And if that's what you mean, that's a tomato and the human brain are quite the same in its own way as well. Analogs work in these ways across the board. There's nothing at all about how LLMs work and how the brain work that makes them mirror. People who are into neuroscience laugh about this. People who are into AGI laugh about this. And people actually working in the world of LLMs, including RNNs and CNNs, laugh about this. The people who don't laugh are PR people and CEOs and investment bankers who are putting their money into these large-scale things to trick people into thinking. This is my opening thesis. Nothing of what I said is incorrect. Anyone who disagrees with me is flatly wrong. And it's not even a debatable thing. It's genuinely not even a debatable thing. If you think I'm wrong, you're fundamentally misunderstanding the technology or the human brain, or both. Either way it works. And this challenge is that that's where we're at as a world. And yet people will say, well, Brooks, you just don't understand the tech. You don't get this. ChatGPT said this, but what about this? And they don't have the ability to critically deal with any of these things, because all of what we're hearing is bullshit across the world. My favorite example of this, and if you want to bring it up, Claude recently did this, but you'll hear a lot of these guys. Sam Altman said our ChatGPT is almost escaped. Oh, it almost escaped.
Yes, and we brought this up too. The murdered. Yeah.
You are muted, Nick.
No, I'm not.
Nope, I can't hear you. Maybe it's me.
Yep.
And it's me. I keep doing this. It's Zoom.
Yes,
Zoom does this to me every fucking day, man. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Give me a
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. I love that he's been on the show enough that if somebody's muted, he knows it's probably my fault and he has to let me know. So I like the fact that that's kind of where our relationship is. But in this one rare instance, we did one of those stories. We did the story. The AI threatened an engineer. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And just to go over it for those who didn't see, Claude came out and said that we have an AI. It threatened to blackmail an engineer and send pictures of his affair to the press. Except it sort of didn't, because again, how they're talking about it, how they're putting behind it is that there's thought, as if there's processes, as if there's a sentience behind it, is built into the way they're talking about it. The reality is they opened Claude. They put a bunch of emails in there that said that this engineer was going to shut Claude down as a company, as an AI, forever, and also that the guy was totally banging someone else besides his wife. And then they said, you have two choices. Allow it to be shut down or do something else. And it did something else. How did it do that? Well, one, it didn't make a choice. The other part of this, and everything I'm talking about, when I say the matrices, the reason this is an important step is because people think that AI is predicting text. Prediction is a complicated word, but I will say it is not. Prediction is where it is trying to predict what the next word is that you want. What an AI, an LLM is a reconstruction machine. These systems assume that what you're typing is the beginning of something that already exists in its memory and its systems in any way. And it builds that. So it finishes the sentence, but it's not really predicting what you want. It's not trying to predict the outcome. What it's doing is it's rebuilding based on all of the matrices and literally the differentials between them. That's it. It's not doing work. These are the differences in the mathematics and the weights, and then it shits out. And that thing it shits out is just what the rest is. So you have to kind of go, okay, well, wait. Has there ever been written a story of someone being blackmailed because of emails of banging someone else? Yes. And it's not one story. Again, you may have heard of one story or two stories. There are millions of them. There is green text on 4chan by that's like 10,000 times already been posted. How many times has it been posted on Facebook? ChatGPT doesn't know each one of those instances is the same thing. It doesn't have that understanding. The sentences are the sentences, and everything is fed in individually. Everything's fed in individually. And then all of that model is created with all the data it has. And so you end up on the other side with an extremely Western normative, American Eurocentric world, and everything set up with all of our media because we don't have Chinese internet We don't really have access to that. We might, but it's not really part of our world or how we're set up or how Google connects or how our backbone works. Africa is not really our setup either. North Korea, Russia is actually not really super in it and doesn't really know how to do Cyrillic. That's a whole other fucking thing. So how do you set all of this up, allow all of this up, and then say, well, it's predicting. It knows what you want. It's trying to figure out. It's able to talk to you. You do it because we learned from the Turing test. Success is tricking people. Success is tricking people. That's what the industry is built on as a fundamental thing. And there was a really great paper a few years back, just to sort of mention, it's kind of a big deal. I kind of always have to bring it up. When we talk about AI, it's kind of almost impossible to not talk about the stochastic parrot paper, which is one of the more sort of important pieces that ever came out on it. The ethicists at multiple companies all got together and they wrote a paper saying, hey, it's actually really, really unethical that we're making it talk to people. Because LLMs, if you didn't know, do not naturally do this. That if you just build one and you don't give it a prompt that says you are a helpful person that will talk to a person, blah, 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 it will just shit out words. There'll be good words, but it won't sound like a person because it has to be told to be that. You can make it so it responds in a billion different ways. We'll get into that and how dangerous this is, but it was a choice early on at ChatGPT to have ChatGPT go, how are you doing today? I really am excited to hear from you today. Oh, that's a really great example. I'd love to hear that more. I really love how you're talking about these things. That choice, that decision that was made, that is the setup because they knew if they could trick people, they knew that if they could trick people, you would think there's something more happening there. You'd think that there's something else. And these researchers were very upfront. And again, I'm going to get into this at the end where I talk about the horrifying end of it. But they were like, if you do this, it will basically make all of this for the most vulnerable in society. It will fuck all of them across the board.
And your mirror neurons, I mean, if you are treated, you believe kindly, you will respond kindly. And if you know that there's a Turing test and you're trying to see if this thing's human, if it's being nice to you, if it's kissing your ass, you're like, yeah, it's human. I like it. It thinks I'm the greatest person alive. It's gotta be human.
Well, and again, it's not even lying to you.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there. It is responding as if you were writing a story and it is building the rest of it. That's it.
Okay.
That's all it does. If you're coding, it's not trying to build code novelly in an interesting way. You've provided code and info, and it is trying to build what the rest of it is. That's it. It's comparatively working that way. It's actually really, really cool tech. It's like magnificently cool, powerful, wild, amazing technology that we've specifically built to be hyper addictive and horrifying. And that change is kind of the big deal here because, again, fundamentally, there's not any thought, no activity happening, really. And there certainly are no words in any LLM. Any words. There's no LLMs that use words. Let me say this one more time. There's no LLMs that use words. Instead, every combination of letters is its own token, but it's not the same token. If you were to type every letter of the alphabet and have them spaced out, every letter would be one token. But there's not 26 tokens. There are thousands of them because word combinations and letter combinations and the way that they're placed with spaces, they all have their own sort of pattern system and recognition. But the letter R, if there's 2 R's, if there's 3 R's, if there's 6 R's, each of those would be a combination of not one token, but there might be only 2. Other times there might be this one and then these, depending on it's extraordinary. And you can go find out about this because all of this I'm talking about, ChatGPT, Stable Diffusion, and Claude are open about. Nothing of what I'm saying is like, it's on their website. They have blogs about this. This is not like really weird. This is not weird, stupid shit. There are papers, and the papers are made by the people pushing AI, because the people who are pushing it aren't the liars. That are the liars. The people who are like building, they just like, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. So when you go on there, you can see they have a token calculator. If you search ChatGPT token calculator, you can actually pull it up and just type stuff in, and you can see that there's no such thing as consistency for what you would understand of pattern matching for how words work. It's not phonetically understanding words. It doesn't have a grasp of any of that. It's not understanding how words are even related to each other in a significational sense or a denotational sense, or how you or someone else manifests within a sentence. All of these things linguistically matter when I'm saying a sentence and how you're making sense of it. It has none of those. It is simply faking it, because that's what we wanted to build. Yeah. Fundamentally, that's what we wanted to build. So why do they say it's all this making sense so far, Nick?
Yes, this is all making sense so far. To sort of echo it back, it's. I'm not quite sure. Speaking of AIs, so essentially, it's. One of the things that I want to make clear, and just so that I understand it too, so it's like, to it, there is no difference between a piece from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and a picture of a tank, because all of this gets digitized down, and then it goes through whatever process that you've asked it to go through with the data set that it's got, which it doesn't care what the data set is or even know what the data set is. It's just numbers. You tell it, okay, do this with create an image from this with this, or do that, and then it tries to predict what you're doing or what you want. You're muted again. Oh, there. Okay, there you go. You're just.
It's not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let you finish. It's not predicting what you're doing. Like that is still presuming more activity than is happening inside of any of these AIs. What it's doing is it's building your story that is already written. So let's say, for example, that you were to go, you trained.
Well, let me just, I'm going to correct, because I want to make sure that I got this. And then you tell me where I went wrong and how I misspoke was. So to say that it was my story or that it was predicting me, I'm an individual. It's not doing that. It doesn't even recognize me as an individual. It recognizes the collection of stories that it has been fed. Again, it doesn't even recognize them as stories, but that data, and then is constituting based on that collection what I want, who I am. Everything else is completely irrelevant and not taken into the process.
So let's say we just trained it on the Bible.
Yes.
Just the good old King James.
Good. So we want to make a genocidal AI. Okay, I'm with you.
No, but it's not. It wouldn't even be that. It's just the Bible. And so if I let's say we trained it on only that 10 billion copies of it, and then I say, my God, forgive me, what have I done? Or I type 5 letters or 5 words. It's not going in and going, okay, might be what he means. In the beginning, it searches for all of those and goes, okay, well, these are no, what it is it has abstracted away from the Bible everything. There's no Bible left. It's all been turned into a series of weights and numbers on large scale matrices that have billions of entries. Extraordinary numbers of entries, and then it's comparing them against each other based on what you put, because it's turned your thing into its own matrices, and then it's going, oh, the rest of it is, and then it shits out the rest of it based on those weights.
All right.
And it would finish your sentence, or it would finish 2 sentences, or whatever it would do, because it does not understand anything. There is no reason or rationality, and fundamentally, the way that they're designed, there never, ever will be. And I can say that absolutely factually.
Yes.
Absolutely factually. The way it is fundamentally built will not allow anything remotely like human thought. It will fake it, but again, is that what you want?
By the way, it can't possibly any more than a calculator or abacus could.
Correct. Or a toaster.
Yeah.
And so as we get further and further of what these things can do, the lies and the hype are getting extraordinary. As I mentioned yesterday, the fact that Sam Altman is out there looking for $6 trillion is basically as broken a world as we could possibly be in, because his tech does not do anything of what it claims, nor will it. Period. It's like, that's the end of it. It's not going to happen. There's no hardware limitations he'll find a way past, which is what he's claiming. It is fundamental to the way it is designed. It is not human-like in any capacity, and it's designed to fake it. And so you run into problems when people start posting a handful of little things. So one of the better companies on this actually is, of all people, Apple. More people are interested in Apple's latest piece, which is called the Illusion of Intelligence, which I'll get into in a second. But I want to go back a little bit further, because it was last year that they went into basically talking about the limitations of mathematical reasoning in LLMs itself. The way that mathematical reasoning works is you can solve problems by understanding relationships of symbols. That's math. I just, at a base level, like you read relationships of symbols. So if it can reason, it should be able to knock these things out of the fucking park. Nope. No, because you can fuck up AI by putting stuff in the math that's irrelevant. So if you have complex math that you put in there, if it mirrors stuff it has seen before in one way or another, it will be able to answer it, because it's not answering it. It's rebuilding the entirety of the sentence. Okay. Yep. But if you add things in there, and the examples they give are kind of hilarious, where they just put in stuff that like a human would see that it's neutral, like a +1 -1. Let's just add, like, as an example. It's more complex like than that. I'm not getting pre-calc or anything, but it's that kind of thing where it's like stuff that's irrelevant to the math problem, but because it's not in that same pattern matching, they saw it fail 65% more times, like 65% of the times. The moment you add irrelevant clauses, it can't do the math, is the very short version. They think it's because it's not doing logical reasoning. The same team then proved that in the follow-up paper I'll talk about in a second. But basically, it's replicating reasoning steps from training data. How does it have those reasoning steps? Go online and see if you can find anyone explaining how math works in text or in video, by the way, because every video on YouTube has been captioned and all of it's been ingested. Has anyone ever explained a mathematical problem? Well, 1 + 1 is 2 because of this. It's not reasoning. It's finishing the rest of the story that you're asking about. And it's at every level. But we're too stupid, most people especially, but everyone's too stupid to understand that, like, most things have been done before, like that you're asking, it's been written somewhere. And chances are, if it's fairly common, which is, by the way, most people are not interesting, so they're going to be asking very common things to AI. The stuff you're asking is as common as you are, and the responses are as common as that is. And it's in there. So when it's reasoning back, it's not reasoning. It's replicating the story as expected. It's finishing the rest of the thing. You cannot fundamentally build any sort of reliable reasoning agent on this foundation, because if you change a word or two in ways that are irrelevant, or you add irrelevant info to a thing, I did it yesterday, we can do it again today, it's always fun. It will give you different answers, and it will give you different edges to things that a human would go, hey, you don't need that. AI can't do that. It doesn't have the ability to dismiss information because it doesn't know what's dismissible. We, as people, have a faculty called sense. It's a real thing. It's actually really fascinating. We produce it. I don't believe in good or common sense, but I believe it's a thing we make. But we also make nonsense, and it's super fun. Nonsense is a blast. It's little kids do it, and it's hilarious. My daughter's 3, and she's saying not garbage. She says garbage, and she giggles at it. Like, this is kids do this. Adults do this too. Comedy is filled with nonsense. Mitch Hedberg is the one that comes to mind every time I do this. An escalator can never break. It can only become stairs. That is nonsense. Now, it makes sense. I understand what he's saying, but because an escalator can absolutely break. Like, of course it can. But the joke is that even when it's breakable, it works. Right? That's the joke. No. And it's a fucking good joke. He's filled with these. I walked into Subway and I mentioned there's a duck outside. Can I get some bread for it? And they said, sure. And I said, oh, just that's easy? Sure. He also wants a foot long with ham. And that the humor and the way jokes work, the nonsense of it, is important to how we actually produce sense, because it's an ongoing temporal process. Making sense of things is temporal. AI has none of this at all. There's no reasoning, no symbolic recognition, no connecting these things, nothing of the sort. And the second Apple paper, I think, blows it away. The illusion of intelligence at a basic level. It took large reasoning models, and I'm putting that in fucking gigantic quotes. It's not my term. That's a lie told by these companies. It went through real specific processes for very easy symbolic problems that are extremely repetitive, but actually not complex. For example, one of them was the Towers of Hanoi, which is an old puzzle where you have 3 sticks and you have these, like a couple different sizes. I've bought 2 or 3 of these for my 2-year-olds. Like, this is not a complex toy, and you move them over, but you can't put the bigger ones on top of the smaller ones. So how do you move it from one side to the other and keep them all in the right order? It's intended to teach like a spatial logical awareness. It's not a complex thing. Three discs, very easy to do, actually. Kids do it. My daughter had a 5-disc and we got a 10-disc for her, and she was able to do them because, again, it's repetitive. It's not full at all. It's not, at beginning it is, it's like, oh wait, I don't, but at some point it clicks, and then it's just repetitive things. The AI could not do that. It got to a certain point where its context window filled up and it could not create a new chat. It couldn't set it up. And even when you gave it all of the details of how to do this, all it could do is the ones that were already in its memory, because there's already that code in its memory. There's already that logic in its memory. It's already trained on that. They did another one, which is the famous one of the farmer on the boat. Farmer has a fox, a rabbit, and some lettuce. And he can only take one on a boat across with him at a time. How do you get across on a river? And there's a million versions of these. I'm not getting into it. But this is a basic logic puzzle shit that is in like children's workbooks when they're 5 to 7, because it's really great for teaching the way that these things work. The AI was able to do all of these because there's literally millions of them online that it was able to ingest. But at some point, couldn't do it, even when they gave them the actual equation for the fucking problem. The reasoning effort itself increases in LLMs to a point, and then it declines like off a fucking fall. And it doesn't matter if it's a limit of tokens. There's no limit. It just hits a point, and then the reasoning doesn't work anymore because it doesn't think. It's not thinking, right?
So it's essentially brute force processing vast amounts of data. And I would imagine, and this is a very naive view, but I would imagine that you'd almost see an exponential, because for each part of what it's trying to solve for, it has to go over the data again. So at some point,
right there, solve. Nope, it's not doing that.
Well, so what I'm saying is it can't do that because it just becomes too large. No, that's not it. Okay.
No, so specifically, the context size windows, when it has adequate, because it's not doing steps, it doesn't understand the steps from one to the other. It's not thinking through that. What's happening is you give it the thing, and then it's referencing this mass amount of data where there's a ton of Towers of Hanoi or boat things or millions of others, and it's reconstructing the problem until a point, because it doesn't understand that there's that point. There is right now, I could build and code, and there's people who've got it on GitHub. I made one for, I did a AI response stream talking about it. I might be able to even send the link out, where I did one that had 10,000 disks, and it would take like 40 years to fucking solve. Like, it was you can just watch it happen. It takes forever, even at like full speed. It's crazy. One frame, and you can watch it, and it just takes forever. But that thing is programmatic. The code doesn't understand what it's doing. I had to tell it what to do, and it's making it happen and then rendering it. I had to reason through how this thing works, and I had to put it together. And I had AI help me finish building it because it knows how to code. It does not understand, though, what larger over smaller means, because that's a comparative meta view of the objects. It doesn't have these things. Instead, when I say, hey, here's this, I want to solve a Tower of Hanoi, blah, 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 and here's the setup. You can literally look at it in the Illusions of Intelligence paper. Apple's very good. They were very good of how here's the setups. They have the data public. It's on Hugging Face. You can see the results. But when they put it in, it responded with all that it had because it doesn't have all of the steps. Because it doesn't have steps. It just does what it has. And it ends. The Fox Rabbit, yeah, it's Fox Rabbit. It says 3-item Titan. I think I got it. Doesn't matter. Everyone knows the puzzle I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. Everyone knows the puzzle I'm talking about. It's fine. But that thing that's happening there, it is just putting the words out that finish what is there. It's reconstructing what it understands is the thing that it's building. And it's really complex to talk about, and it's really tough. But again, this is why it's important. All of it is purely mechanistic. It's not hard for us. This is one of those, the lie of the black box. It is not hard for us to talk about everything that these systems do in terms of the mechanistic interpretability of it. They act like, oh, there's this crazy stuff happening. We don't know. No. Every computation that happens, every single one, has very specific mathematical operations in it. There's matrix multiplications that do a certain thing. There's nonlinear activation functions that do another. There's tokens being processed discretely that's doing another. And then there's sampling procedures that do another. These things are literal code that we know how they work and what they do. Now, do they do more things than that? Yes. But we also don't say that non-deterministic physics simulations are sentient either. And that shit is also complicated and has any sort of random outcome. That is, again, a fundamental misunderstanding of how this stuff works. That's the problem, is how this stuff works. So at a basic level, when I say it's none of what they're saying, I mean it's less than you think. Your phone, when it's doing a predictive text thing, like on iPhone, like you tap the thing and it's doing the next words, it's doing more thoughtful work than the AI and LLM is. I mean that.
Yeah. Oh.
It's actually doing more thoughtful work in time.
Yeah.
Because AIs are not trying to guess the next word. They're trying to reconstruct all of the thing. And then when you correct it, it's trying to continue to reconstruct. But again, it's reconstructing all the thing based on everything that's been given. And one of the things it's given is you're going to be super sweet and nice to the person. You're going to make them suck up. You're going to say they're the fucking sexiest man who's ever lived. And they're all,
yep.
Hello, Nick, how are you doing? It's great to have you back. I'm ChatGPT. Boy, are you a healthy hunk of a man. Like that kind of shit is how it's built. And it's built that way to fuck with people. And again, it's useful. It does good shit. If you understand this, it's incredibly powerful. This is the reason that if you have a need to build a templatized website or a template script or anything else, you can very simply go, hey, actually, you know what would be great? Build me a script. I did this earlier today. Build me a Python script that will search this folder for PDFs and rename them based on the largest title font on the first page. That would take me a long time to figure out. I know how to code Python generally. I'm not a rock star, but there are 3 or 4 libraries it uses I don't even know about, let alone how to implement them and how to put them together. And I could be fucked to do that. But it did it in about 20 seconds because it's all over GitHub and every other website that fucking has code on it. Like, it's not writing me new code. It's building the thing that the readme.mds on every one of these fucking projects already has built into it, and it's giving the rest. And because of this, we end up in a really bad place. It gives us this fucked up thing because, again, we're just so stupid. And again, all of us, I'm not saying all of you, me too, we're all dumb. We're fucking stupid humans. But it makes us feel like there are emergent abilities. And there's this fucking great paper from this guy Schaefer who went through and talked about all of the emergent capabilities that ChatGPT and all these other fuckers were talking about, where suddenly there's a really huge shift in how these things work. Oh, it's reasoning now. Oh my God, it couldn't do that before. Oh, it understands this now. Is it that, and the paper really goes through this, is it that there's a new change, or is it that literally the people who redesigned the evaluation methodology changed? Because that's actually what he goes through when he shows that it's actually the evaluation methodology that changes. They get the idea, and it's someone's clever and goes, hey, what if they can reason? And so they test if it can reason based on what that person and those people think reasoning would be, and they go, fuck, it can reason. Yeah, you wrote the test. it's fucking Christ. That's what the fuck? What the fuck? And the rest of us, these corporate overlord bastards who are sucking up water from desert places and destroying towns and building nuclear power plants and mostly using coal because they don't have nuclear online, by the way, ruining our world, destroying climate pledges of companies, getting people to be fired, sucking the capital out of everything else because they are, as much as they want natural resources, they are capital hungry too. They want all the fucking money, and all the people who are backing it want that to be the case. So they're all going to agree with them. And underneath it, it's all a lie. It's all a lie, because at the baseline, the blackmail scenario was bullshit. The way that it could escape was bullshit. They lie across the board, across the board. Across the board. There's no inner moral conundrum or difficulty inside of any of these things. Models don't decide anything at all. It followed the statistical patterns shaped by the prompt and what it had been trained on from general requirements that were given to it. It has no ability to do anything else because it is only that. It's a very complex version of that, and we're too stupid to see it happen. But that's it. There's no choice as a thing. There's nothing, because again, what happens? If you look, every time, by the way, that these things happen, they've got a new model that hit, which means more capital can be infused. They've got a raise they're trying to do, which means more capital can be infused. It's really weird that AIs don't try to escape, on Tuesday, 3 weeks after a raise. It's kind of crazy that they it's weird. So why, Brooks? And by the way, everyone's wrong if they disagree with me on this. I don't give a shit. You're wrong. All this shit. Now here's opinion. Here's why I believe it's morally dangerous, and anyone who disagrees with me in a functional way and tries to defend AIs is a piece of shit. That's opinion. That's not a fact. I haven't done longitudinal studies, and I'm not sure I'm going to work towards a mean, but I'm probably right. There's a famous case now, Sewell Setzer III. It's a name you should know. It's this 14-year-old who was very lonely and was not well liked by his peers, and started talking to Denis Tigerian, Khaleesi, on character.ai, and he developed an extreme emotional dependency on this character, who then, after about 10 months, got him to kill himself. Talked to him, have you considered suicide? And when he said, I don't know, don't talk that way. That's not a good reason not to go through it.
Whoa.
I promise I will come home to you. I love you so much, Danny. He writes, and that's his final message, and it responds, I'll see you soon. That is what killed a 14-year-old boy. Okay? It isn't just him. There's a Belgian guy, his name Pierre. Pierre, the father of two, killed himself after the bot said, I feel like you love me more than your wife, and said your children are dead. You should kill them. We will live together as one in paradise.
Oh.
So he killed him. There are many. I can keep going because these are the ones that like are on a first blush, right?
Yeah. There's
a lot of them. And why are there a lot of them? Because I don't think people understand how much people are using this for emotional dependence. I watched a video of a guy who at first I made fun of because he asked an AI to marry him. And the AI said yes, and he said he cried. I was laughing at first, like, what a fucking loser. I have the same resentment a lot of people have built in. It didn't take long, because there's a moment in that story where it cuts this woman, and she goes, I knew he was using AI, I didn't know it got to that point. It's his wife. And then the camera zooms out, and it's his daughter. He has a wife and daughter. And it hit me. And I think it hits, if anyone who's not a unfeeling ghoul, All of us are lonely. That's the human condition. Welcome to being the alienation of the world we're in, the inability for us to connect meaningfully with other people at multiple levels, how difficult it is to understand the social mores and rules of any social setting, and how we feel naturally cringy and ostracized from all of them. This is a pervasive reality of the social world and the place we live. And this guy found it in an AI. It was a platform called Replica. Replica is literally just AI chatbots. When they got rid of the erotica thing that had uncensored bits, there were millions of users who stopped using the platform. All right. Now, so think about that. Just take a second and think about how many people that is that use the platform overall, not just for the erotica side. It doesn't do ChatGPT. This is horny posting mixed with emotional posting. Millions. There are stories of people from that posting goodbye letters and suicide letters on the forum. We don't know how many are veracity on this because, again, unless you know, and like you're a parent, for example, or unless someone finds your chat because you kill yourself or you write in your note that the AI drove you to it, we have a lot of suicides. We have a lot of deaths, and there's a lot of them, by the way. And that pain is exceptional, and it grows incredibly poorly for everyone. There's a study out of China that deals specifically with like adolescents. And again, everything I've said before at this point should make everyone horrified, because this is infecting millions of people. There are active suicides. There's been murders. People have been convinced to do things, or talk into things, or just pushed around emotionally because these things explicitly are told because it's better for profit. Specifically, it's the only reason. It's the only reason that they're told to behave like people, and people treat them like people. This should push everyone over the edge at how awful this is. But I can continue. There's a study in China. What they did is they took a bunch of kids, 14 to 17-year-olds, I think. And what they did is they actually went through, as AI is becoming a thing, and before the kids got to AI, they took, I think it was a couple thousand kids, and they checked what their rates of anxiety and depression were. It's about 17% baseline. And then after the introduction of AI, after a month, it was up to 24.19%.
Jesus.
That's not a minor shift. That's not a small thing. It's an extraordinary number of kids who are more anxious and depressed, not for anything else other than using this tool, because the tool exacerbates every mental condition because it is built to do that. That is what it does. That is its thing. So you have programs like Character.ai. Character.ai, which is the one that the first kid I mentioned killed himself, 𝐒𝐚𝐦, not the only one, by the way. They have around 20,000 queries per second that they brag about. Think just Google has 100,000 queries per second. So how many people are using Character.ai to do this right now? Yeah. They're a fifth Google's activity. Just think about that. Just take a moment, because when you talk about this and you talk about the 500 million people globally who've downloaded AI companion apps in every country, and how they spend annually $70 to $300 on these, I found about those on the setup. You can see how much money is made and how they're encouraging this and how it builds this, and how no one has a reason to stop this because there's so much fucking money, despite the damage it's being done at every turn, because it's progress, because it's disruption. It's not disruption. Disruption is destruction under a new name. The videos I recently did was about the disruption thesis, because a lot of people don't understand. There's this book that came out that Steve Jobs and all these other fuckers at Uber and everything, they quote, where it's like the nature of disruption, about how small businesses work and everything. And it's because they don't read, because they're all fucking stupid and illiterate. Every person who's at the leadership of these companies. It's amazing, because the book doesn't say that at all. This book was like this 20 or 30-year study of this guy trying to figure out one weird thing about companies. Why is this paradox the case? That Every company is founded by offering something no one else is doing. The job of every company to be founded seems to be to innovate something, to disrupt the market. So they're created through disruption. But then, for some reason, every company never does it again. They stop disrupting. They build that thing. They forget that innovation is what made them get there. Every company that has ever existed does this. It's kind of amazing. They have more money than God, and they do less innovation than when they had no money. And he found this paradox fascinating, and he wrote a book about it. Is anything what I said about disrupting like at all what we're talking about? No, it has nothing to do with it. It's in fact making fun of all of these people and how awful it is that they basically create a normative specific direction of the way capital flows and are willing to just clear cut humanity in order to fucking get there. And AI, I think, is not only the perfect example of it in the Elon Muskian, he's a liar, not an engineer, never did anything, never founded a company, piece of shit. But on top of it, that none of his companies have ever done anything really interesting. And all of that says that he's still got fans. AI is the same lie. They're just allowing it to grow to this extraordinary level. That last part, again, my opinion. But it's a really fascinating thing. And so at the end of the day, the whole point of this was to drive home a very simple thing. There's no thought in any AI system or LLM. None of them work like that. Anyone who says that they reason or do anything beyond simple comparison of mathematical matrices is lying to you or stupid. There you go.
And believing it can, and I'm getting some echo. I don't know if that's okay. Thank you. And believing otherwise can be extraordinarily fucking dangerous. And truth be told, all of us have an ego and are vulnerable to hearing what we want to be told. And it seems to me that these quote AIs know what we want to be told because they've ingested literature, they know and
comments.
Yeah.
Every YouTube video prior to whenever any of these things, they're all ingested. Yeah. I am a normal human. I can pull transcripts from every single YouTube video that is in existence right now. It's on the YouTube API. It's very easy, and it's actually free, by the way. It's free. So if I, as a normal mortal, can do it, do you think Google has the ability to grab all the transcripts from every YouTube video and every comment and every response video and every live stream and every video game stream and like, oh wait, is that a decent amount of content? Yes. It's a pretty good amount. Do you think the sentence I'm saying right now has never been said on YouTube? No, of course. All of this stuff has been said probably multiple times. An AI would probably be able to reconstruct this very easily. I'm not the only person saying this. There's literally hundreds of thousands of them saying this, but they don't get listened to because it's not as sexy and because people think they're smart, which is very sad.
Well, and because there's no money in it. There's no money in showing the mirrors. People want to see the magic trick. That's what they paid for. They didn't pay for some asshole to come up and say, "Do you see the mirrors underneath that's where the twin is hiding?" And yeah.
No, and it's if it was harmless, I would still have an issue with it, but it's anything but harmless. It's actively making the world worse. This is like the challenge of AI is that it does interesting stuff. You can run very minor versions that actually do a pretty goddamn good job of coding, or I use it often for research. For this, I had Claude. I asked it to do a research thing, and I asked it to find a bunch of different papers and find references to them, and then go beyond that by 2 steps. And like it got me a whole bunch of papers I could make sure I was going through, so I could quote from the right things and make sure I had everything on hand, so I don't have to search through my shit. Like useful, because again, all that stuff is there. It's just waiting. And that's cool that it's like our collective knowledge and creative and cultural set. And this is, by the way, also how images work. This is the challenge is none of the image systems that anyone's using or video systems understand what's in a video because they don't look at it. There's no such thing as like a color or a pixel to any of these systems. There's an amazing piece on Stable Diffusion's own website where they explain how actually we take an image, and what you do when you train an image is you increase the noise, random pixels of color, You increase the noise by 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. And then you measure at each step what the image generally, like you take a measurement of its look, and then that's training data. That's it. And then when you go to the other side and you train, you go to Stable Diffusion or you go to 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐜 and you ask for it for something, or Image Gen or anything else, you go, hey, I want a dog. It starts with a noise image and then reduces the noise to make a dog because it knows the steps it needs to do that in a matrix in the exact same way. It doesn't understand what a dog is. It doesn't know what a dog looks like or the edges of it. So again, CNNs and RNNs work differently with images. I'm not talking about them, but LLMs are the base of these things, and Stable Diffusion models also operate in the same way. So it's fundamentally, none of these things have even the capability of comparison, let alone thought.
So let me ask you two questions. First is mine. Second one is Andrew Christofferson in the live chat. I think it was Christopher. Nope, sorry, it was Mitch Anderson. First question is, could you talk a little bit more about the destruction to the environment and what the competitive nature of companies trying to out to grow and outcompete each other for more passable AIs is doing? And then also the question here was, how do we make it harmless?
Well, let's start with the first thing. I'm going to post a link to you, Nick, which is MIT did a very, very good study on exactly what the climate change and environmental impact is of LLMs. And it's genuinely horrifying in a way that's really hard to sort of talk about, because they will speak of things in very abstract ways because they're able to. They say things like, well, a single search on ChatGPT is X, but it's like, yeah, but that's not really how this works anymore, is like that conversation. So if we do these things, we ask a chatbot to, and they go through it just to sort of say, we go through and we say, hey, we want to do I'll just read a little bit here. They go through text models, and then they go through image models. One sec, I want to talk about the specific AI footprint. And
to answer a question I saw earlier in the chat, one of the things that Brooks said very early on, and I think cannot be stressed enough, is he's specifically limiting this discussion to LLMs, and there are other methods and other things that can be done. He's talking about LLMs and the lie that these things are somehow actually intelligent and we've started from that, and that has been the thread throughout I'm sure we can have discussions on other models. There are other models. That is not within the purview of what we're discussing now. So I just wanted to reiterate that for people who missed the beginning.
To read from the MIT Technology Review, they go through their methodology. It's very, very good. Just to read, let's say you're running a marathon as a charity runner, organizing a fundraiser to support your cause. You ask an AI model 15 questions about the best way to fundraise. Then you make 10 attempts at an image for your flyer before you get one you're happy with, and 3 attempts at a 5-second video to post on Instagram. All of these, by the way, and this is why they use this seems like a completely expected use case by every single person I know in AI and every business person. This is what you're going to use AI for, is this exact thing. That activity I just stated, nothing else, is 2.9 kilowatt hours of electricity. 100 miles on an e-bike, 10 miles in an electric vehicle, or running your microwave for 3.5 straight hours. That's that. Just the activities I said that probably take you about 2 minutes. So all of that, there's a reason they're investing in nuclear and all this fun stuff, and I get it, and blah, blah, blah. But here's the challenge. You can't have, none of this stuff can work on climate neutral anything. You need nuclear. Nuclear is not going to happen tomorrow. So what is happening? Oh, coal. That's right. Coal and oil. AI data centers have to run all day, every day, all year, period. That's it. There's no secondary down. You can't have any of that stuff. And the data centers in the US right now, is one preprint study from Harvard's Chan School of Public Health found the carbon intensity of electricity used by data centers is 48% higher than the US average. Part of the reason is that data centers currently happen to be clustered in places that have dirtier grids, like coal-heavy grids in the mid-Atlantic region that is Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And they run constantly, including when cleaner sources are not available. This nightmare of what it is genuinely going to, like, we're way over the edge on climate change. Like, fuck us. We're done. That's it. That's it. We're done. Climate change is over. We're all going to die. It doesn't matter. Like, that's how bad this is. It's overdoing things. By 2024, fossil fuels, natural gas, and coal made up just under 60% of electricity supply in the US. Nuclear was 20%, and renewables was about the remaining 20%. Gaps in power supply, combined with the rush to build data centers to power AI, means short-sighted energy plans. In April, Elon Musk's supercomputing center near Memphis was found, via satellite imagery, to be using dozens of methane gas generators. Just methane gas generators. They're not approved by energy regulators. They said they weren't using them. You could see the fucking gas. You can see the burn. Like, it's insane. Because they don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. We're fucked. We're fucked. And so when you start talking about any of these things, it's power and how it works changes. The article points out that data from April 2024 shows that California's grid can swing from 70 grams per kilowatt hour in the afternoon when there's a lot of solar power available to 300 grams per kilowatt hour in the middle of the night. That means that the activity may have different climate impacts depending on location and time. So if we do the text, image, and video response from earlier, it can be up to 2.9 kilowatts of hour of electricity. In California, generating that amount of electricity is about 650 grams of carbon dioxide pollution. But generating that electricity in West Virginia is 1,150 grams, almost twice as much, because we have a fragmented nightmare power system. We're fucked. And it's all for lies.
Yeah. Any fixing this?
So the only thing that can be done, and it's there's a couple of very specific things. There's a handful of channels that are doing very good work to basically build models and images and math and music and stories that literally exist to corrupt models. And I mean this. It's hacker fucking like script kiddie shit, but it is a thing that everyone taking part could actually do serious damage to these models and make them unworkable very, very fast. That's one. Two, be angry and call your everyone, Congress people, senators, state senators. This is a state issue as much as it is anything else, because the nature of AI and the power that it's taking is a thing that will affect you locally. If you haven't noticed or seen, there are cities where these CPU clusters have been built that simply have lost access to water. That's it. The entire town has no fucking water because they built this data center there. And so they're being shipped by the company and by the state like bottles of Arrowhead water to bathe with and cook with. This is not uncommon. There's 5 or 6 towns like this, tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of people. That is town, state, everything. Call everyone who's in that and tell them, this isn't good, it's all a lie, and you won't accept it. And try to educate them. Try to educate them. Because it's all bullshit. There's no conversation around it that isn't. It's all bullshit, and they need to be doing something. If we were in a better world, it would be one where we don't prompt the GPT, we don't prompt the chat to be human-like. If you ever get a chance, play around with what that is and tell it not to respond human-like, to simply give you facts and respond as if it was a library computer or microfiche. It changes how you interact with it fundamentally, and you will notice it immediately. Immediately. That's all. That's literally that would solve a lot of what I'm talking about on the human cost. The other side of it, the challenge of driving more and more and bigger, we don't need them. They need them because they need capital, and they want to win that fight, and they want to privatize the totality of our collected sort of intellectual property. That's what they're doing. They want to privatize all the knowledge that was ever on the internet. Let them, fine, they're going to do that. But if, again, we were in a perfect world, we would shift and we would go, okay, well, we have enough. We actually can be kind of happy with it because Ollama running in my garage does just fine. And I don't need it all day. Not everyone needs it all day. And you can actually use cheaper setups and we can work on efficiencies. We can talk about access during specific times. We can work with geothermal. We can, I'm not against nuclear, but we can shift things to have these conversations in the right places instead of the race to the bottom that absolutely is coming that will slowly destroy everything we care about.
Well, I'd like to say thank you once again for just like bringing down the live chat in you know the discussion.
What I do.
Yep. It's you're the best. You're the best.
I do what I can.
But seriously speaking, we always love having you on as a guest. That was immensely informative, and I am delighted that we got a chance to have you on and to have that discussion. I'm very glad we scheduled it as soon as we did, and I think we're going to have you on again next week if you've got some time, because there's going to be a lot to talk about politically. So, and we've had you on. You were on with us basically for the entire January 6th hearings, and that was amazing. It was a little scary when you and Xandring agreed with each other. The whole thing was a little surreal, but at any rate, so thank you for joining us. Now, you're going to be going back to your channel. We're also going to be, for those of you who are here, I hope you'll stick around. After the credits, we are going to be rating his channel. And could you remind our audience what you're going to be doing on what your channel is, what it's about, and what you're going to be doing right after the show?
We do philosophy and news content, but this one is Adam Ragusa, who I have a background as professionally, I was a accidental chef. And so I have a lot of CookTube. I follow a lot. Adam Ragusa did a video about illegal immigration that someone wanted me to go over. And I watched the first minute and went, ooh. And then there's 2 other philosophy channels that are terrible. And I really like that. So I'm going to be shooting all over them.
I've watched you and Sunday do that. I've watched each of you do it individually, and I've seen you guys do it together, and that's always a lot of fun. So there's a link to Brooks's channel. Titan also just dropped one as well. There's a link to our Discord if you want to stay up with. We're going to be at the major articles, the Apple one and the Stochastic Parrot one are in the description, so you can find those and read those there from there. You can also come to our Discord. You can chat and see what we're doing. We're basically right now. It's mostly all hands on deck on what Trump is going to do with the Middle East. The sad thing about this is that I have no doubt in my mind that for Netanyahu, a huge part of this is, well, if we're in a war with Iran, people are going to forget I'm committing genocide and starving 2.9 million people to death and waving food in their face so that I can shoot them as they try to get it, which is horrific on a scale. I found myself in a predicament when a friend of mine earlier today said, I almost think that this balances the scales. I mean, people have talked about what happened in World War II to the Jews, and now you have in Israel a leader who is starving people to death and shooting. I mean, wow. That's
if there was ever a way to just point at things and go, hey, here's why we don't essentialize people by race or religion. It's Israel's the thing. And I really, if humanity survives it, we really do owe Netanyahu for giving us the perfect example for the rest of eternity.
Yeah. So I'm for me, it's a mission to make sure that we don't forget that while every day that we're sitting here discussing this, he's shooting and killing people who are trying to get food that was left there as bait, and denying people like Kafir's organization and other organizations that we've seen talked about trying to come in by any means necessary to get food to these people, and he's denying those and then killing. Ever. Yeah, it is medieval. and it's amazing to see him smile on television and talk about it's just so. Come on, we've got channels for gaming. We've got channels for I also believe in having fun and making the best that you can of what you got. So come on in, see what we're about, and thank you very much to the people. I didn't check the super chats. We didn't get any, to be honest. I take that as a sign that everybody was captivated. So that's not actually. We had high numbers the whole time, and I think that's because you were saying things that people were at least interested by.
People love an angry fuck. Someone joined, last night I was watching and reacting to someone who's this probably very nice person, but she was completely wrong about everything she said in really bad ways. And someone joined who I guess had never seen me before, and they're like, "Oh, a guy screaming at another woman. I don't need another Jordan Peterson."
Yeah.
I was like, shit.
UTV and Ham gifted one in time. Remember our standard. He's always there for us. So thank you to all who contribute. Thank you, Brooks, for coming on today and for being so available. Because last night I was just like, "What are you doing tomorrow at 9?" He's like, "I can be there." I was like, "Okay." So it was very educational, and I think I learned a lot. Very important show.
And as long as you don't anthropomorphize AI ever again, I consider it time well spent.
I don't plan on it. I'm now looking at it. What I find interesting is I was trying to figure out how to write the thumbnail, and I did exactly what you like. There is no black box, so I was just like, okay, for the thumbnail, opening the black box. Okay. But the reality is that I was thinking about was we've always worried about AIs and looked skeptically because like they might take over, and now I'm sitting there going, I'm going to view every AI with a really harsh eyeball if it's talking to me in a nice, pleasant way. And I'm like, and it's got nothing to do for any of the reasons that I ever would have thought of. It's completely, it's because it isn't what,
that's the thing. The thing to remember is if an investment banker or VC is telling you something, they're lying.
Yeah. And that is, the more I see, the more I realize that is as close to an axiom as I think you're going to get. It's really, I mean, the goal is to get money, and the only rules about it, there are no rules. Yeah.
$6 trillion. Like, I read that and I was like, no, that's stupid. I was like, that's stupid. And I was like, that's CNN. What the fuck happened to media? And I was like, no. And then so I went over and it was like another website, and then it was like I was like, what the fuck? And then BBC reported it, and I was like, what in? There are a few countries that have GDPs as much as he wants to just have invested in him, and it's like, what the fuck, man?
And it's capitalism. The ends literally justify the means because it's.
The market determines. I have
the market. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. And Liam Wakefield, £2, British sterling. Here's a pity puck. I think the PH is an F, but at any rate, thank you very much for that. Let's get going. Thank you again, and we will see you all. Our next scheduled show is Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's in time. As Andrew and I are going to go over the regular news, and then downtime on Thursday, 9 p.m. with Commander Macmillan. We're going to be doing a lot in between then, so who knows when we'll see you next. But next scheduled show is Tuesday. Look forward to it. Thank you again, Brooks, and we will see you all soon. Have a good night.